I'd like to welcome everybody back to another episode of Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers. Today, we are joined by Nick Bandstra, assistant football coach at Fairborn High School, YouTube legend, running multiple podcast channels, and he also spends any free time he has helping out his local and state coaches association. Coach, welcome.
I'm Coach. Hi.
Hey, you knew I'm going to do this. I'm going to bust some chops while I got a chance to get you on here.
I know you are. I just remember how nice I was when you're always on my channel. But
right?
God. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I can't complain.
But is there anything in there that I said wasn't true?
No, legend, I would say probably is untrue. Like,
wait a minute, you got like almost 2,000 subscribers?
Yeah.
You're legendary.
That's not legendary. No, it's like if we're talking YouTube, legendary is like Mackey or McPherson. And if we're talking actual legendary, it's like Jim Place, who I interviewed last night. That's legendary.
Hey, he is legendary. I will give you that one. I can't wait to see that one come out, Coach. I'm telling you. And a lot of the guys in Miami Valley, Southwest Ohio are going to watch that one for sure.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, Jim and me just chit-chatted for about 35, 40 minutes. It was fun. It was a good time.
Absolutely. Hey, anytime you can talk to that guy, you know, is a great time. So now that I'm done busting chops with you a little bit here, tell us a little bit about yourself, Coach. Where have you coached at? Where, playing experiences, anything like that you think's relevant here?
I was an appalling, horrible high school athlete at Lakewood High School. I don't sugarcoat or have any fantasies about how bad I was. Then I started my coaching career at 19, working for J.R. Wade at Granville. I was an 8th grade assistant, and then I helped the varsity on Fridays. Did a lot of minuscule like admin, just laundry and our BS for them too. After 2 years there, I went to my alma mater, was the freshman head coach at Lakewood High School in Hebron. First time they did a freshman program, about 4 or 5 years, helped restart that. We were not good, and I made a lot of mistakes. Our head coach was retired at the end of the year. Took a job at Fairfield Christian for a year, worked with BJ Queen. At the same time, I got an aide job at Westland High School. So at the end of the season, I just kind of moved over there, took the safeties job there, spent a year there with Kyle Goebel, learned a lot. After that season, my good friend Derek Catras offered me a DC job where I spent 2 years helping him rebuild that program. And then Fairborn offered me a teaching job where I've been for the past 3 years as either a special teams coordinator, co-defensive coordinator, and I've coached on both sides of the ball.
Hey, Coach, I bust your chops, but I'm telling you what, you are a pretty good coach because we've had to go against you now for a couple of years, and you guys have gotten better each year. So, all joking aside, guys, we know each other really well, and it's always we're always chopping it up a little bit. So it is good to see. There's something you said in there. You said like when you were an 8th grade coach and you were helping the high school job, doing minuscule jobs. I talked to a guy, Woody Blevins, last week, and he talks about that as advice to a young coach of, hey, that's not paying dues. It's not the bitch jobs. It's not, it's you learning how to coach. He goes, and the sooner, and I think you did that philosophy, maybe not even knowing it, the sooner you do learn that it's how you're learning how to coach and you're being a coach, I think that's when those guys become better coaches, like Coach Blevins said. So that one will be out in a couple weeks, but it's a good one. And I also want to talk about Lakewood High School. I know you're a youngster. I mean, well, to me, you're a youngster. I mean, you graduated high school in 2009?
Correct.
All right, 2009. So I was at Miami Trace from 99 to 02, and we played Lakewood. And one of the, I talked about this when I did the video for yours on scouting. I talked about how we figured out Lakewood wouldn't stunt until until the offense crossed the 45 or the 40, and it was stealing. So you were probably a youngster, like you to see that.
I was living in Texas at the time when you coached
man. Texas. And wait a minute, you left Texas? Well, Ohio High School's pretty good. Ohio High School football's good. I'm not going to knock it, but you were in the two hotbeds of high school football.
I lived in Texas from 4th grade to 8th grade. The period of Lakewood you're talking about was pretty much last time Lakewood was truly decent.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
They were solid then. I want to say Greg Forsyth was the head coach, or he took the job right after that, one of the two.
Yeah. And
then really after about 2003, that program has struggled for a variety of reasons. Conley's son, the former head coach at ODU, his son was the head coach there for a couple of years, started turning around a little bit. And then Jason Lee's there now. He's doing a pretty good job in all honesty, especially with culture. I think they're headed in the right direction, but it's still an uphill climb there.
No, it is one of those jobs, and it's one of those suburbs, if you can call it a suburb of Columbus. So Columbus is growing so fast.
It's really a suburb of Newark at this point. Like
right.
Newark's grown so much. I mean, it's the largest town in the state of Ohio with only one high school. Like,
hey, it's helpful. I'm telling you what. One high school. I mean, you know, there's only one Fairborn, but there was two at one time. You know.
Oh, they let you know about that. Any alumni will let you know about the Park Hills and Baker days and who was better and who wasn't.
Oh, absolutely. And how it came to become with what I consider the worst color combination ever of Columbia and brown. That was really, really not a good look.
It was bad. Yeah.
They should have just picked one. They should have stayed with the colors you guys are back to now. Columbia and Navy. There's nothing wrong with those colors.
No, and you do some good things with it. Like North Carolina does some good things with those colors.
Absolutely.
Maine does a fantastic job with that color combination.
Absolutely. Maine, the Bears, man.
Yeah.
You can't beat them.
That's why we went to the Navy helmet and that blue stripe, is because my head coach saw the Maine stuff and loved it.
Right. Hey, it's a good look.
Yeah.
The Navy and Columbia is a good look. So, hey, Coach, you know, you've been around for a long time, and what's kind of funny is early this year you were kind of busting my chops about being an odd front guy and how the odd front's better and the odd front's better. But when you comes back to it, I think you're an even front guy at your heart. You're an even front
guy. I don't know at this point. There's things I really like about the odd front. What you can do at and we've had this conversation many times about personnel and adjusting to our personnel, and you will, and any smart coach will. And we always play that. What if you have your ideal personnel? That's kind of where I like the odd front. If I can have good rush ends who can also drop and play some games, that's where it's fun.
So kind of like the outside linebackers we've had the past 4 years.
Yeah, those freaks of nature you've had. He's 6 foot whatever, 200 pounds. Oh, that's nice.
That's helpful to have those when you're going to play the 3-4.
Yeah, but when you're at a small school, like when I was at Elgin, we didn't have we had linemen, and then we had a bunch of kids that were safety linebacker bodies.
Right.
They weren't true linebackers, and I didn't have. But my linemen weren't like 3-4 linemen. They weren't those big hosses.
Right. Where you get them to 2 gap when you need them to.
Yeah. So that's why the first year I was pretty much told to run a 4-2-5 because that's what they run the year before. He's comfortable with the coverage structure, and then we were god awful for a variety of reasons. 22 kids, injuries, a lot of freshmen. Playing school is much bigger than us. I mean, there's a lot of factors in why we were bad that year. Injuries we had to start the year. So the following year we converted more to a 4-4, and I fell in love with cover 3 and the simplicity of it. I kind of stole the concepts of Nate Albaugh's and the 3-3 guys in terms of blitzing and simplicity and put it into a 4-4 system and sat in cover 3. And surprisingly, at small school ball, nobody threw 4 verts. So I think part of that is because you don't what I do, because you coached small school ball before. No one's that quarterback that you'll see at our level D2 doesn't exist most of the time at that Division 5, 6, 7 level. So they're not. I mean, that throw is not always necessarily consistent enough to make that throw. I saw more sprint out flood than anything that year. That was the most common pass scheme I saw when I broke down the data at the end of the year.
Right. Well, and that's true. And here's what I think, and I believe this. I believe you have to have a philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you said, what we've talked about, match your personnel to your philosophy. If you have kids and you've got 3 kids that are just space eaters and you got some really good athletic outside linebacker kids that could be outside linebackers, run it on front.
Yeah.
But if you don't, let's say you have 2 of those guys, okay, now you're setting yourself up for being even front. You get you a 1 technique and a 3 technique. One of those 2 are going to have to draw a double team.
Yeah.
If you don't have those guys to draw double teams, well, you got to find a system that fits your philosophy. And I think, for me, I've always believed as long as I'm in high school, you got to stop the run. I don't care whether you're at Division I or here in Ohio, Division VII, the big to the small. The teams that run the ball are going to win more games than they lose.
Especially in this state. This isn't Texas or from to your point about philosophy, my philosophy is more of I would rather zone blitz and play cover 3. And the front for me, as I've thought about this more, doesn't matter as much.
Right.
It's making sure I've matched numbers the way I need to match numbers, make sure I've aligned the way I need to do. And this is where I agree with John Puckett, and somebody probably won't let me live that down. But I personally would prefer to play 1 high, bring pressure here and there, and the front part doesn't matter to me. I get to read, I understand it. I'm just not a huge fan of it personally. I'd rather be in press quarters if I'm too high than I would to read.
And I'm a 2-read guy.
Yeah.
But I also know that people are starting to know how to beat it.
Oh yeah.
There's cover 3 beaters. Well, what's the cover 3 beater? 4 verticals. But one, you got to want to throw it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys that don't want to throw 4 verticals because it's a high school quarterback. You don't know there's 10 quarterbacks in the state of Ohio that will beat you no matter what you're playing.
Yeah.
And the chances of you playing that guy week in and week out, not that great, right? But, in cover 4 has beaters. Cover 2 has beaters. So there's all these beaters. I think you're right. You got to know when to move stuff around. And, what's the difference between a 4-2 and a 3-3?
Just the down lineman. That's literally
down line where the down linemen are lined up, right? Pre-snap. Yeah. Because after that, when a 3-3 very rarely just rushes 3.
Correct.
They're bringing 4. Now you got to figure out which one it is. So there's still 6 guys in the box. And I tell you what, after being in the option offense for 4 years, when we struggled, a lot of times where there's teams in the stack when the kid is when the quarterback missed a read because he thought it was going to do this and it didn't. It went this, and he struggled at I thought they're going to cross and they didn't, and they just they squeezed both down. So I think you're right on that. I think finding something where you're comfortable and knowing what's going to hurt you. Devin Spitzer, the defensive coordinator at Springfield, him and I were talking coverage, and he talked about what he does is they may go into a week and they may run 3 coverages in a week. They're going to run, and I don't recall it. Cover 2, cover 3, and cover 4. And what he does is they know what routes are coming, and they split the field in half. And if they're running cover 3, they're going to see flood, and then they're going to run flood against cover 2, and then they're going to run flood against cover 4. So the kids know where they fit in each of the coverages. So they're going to, instead of getting cover 3 all the way down, they do it against route concepts. And I like that. So, I really think, what you're saying, the fronts don't matter. Just find a way to get your kids the best spot. Hey, maybe against the offenses you're seeing, maybe a 5-3, an old school 5-3, like Lakewood ran against us when I was at Miami Trace. Hey, by the way, they're playing cover 3 behind it, but they put 8 guys in the box, and they made us come up with a way of blocking it to run off tackle. We had to pull a guy. This is when we were running Power O before we knew it was called Power O.
Yeah.
We gave it a name. We called it Dave or something. I don't remember what it was. We had to call for it. So All right, so cover three. You're a cover three guy. So first answer is how you defend 4 verts.
Yeah. First answer is it's 4 verts. A lot of times, like I didn't have much problem with it. At small school ball, I'll dare you to throw it. Now, when we start getting to our level, I want to rep it a little bit more.
Right.
Like and prep it. I think the easiest way is get a really good free safety. I mean, that's just common sense.
That's helpful.
But again, in a cover 3 system, that's gonna be my best kid anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Like my best athletes will play probably inside backer and safety. I mean, because just from my experience, those were my best 3 guys. And I know there's philosophy, put your outside backers, your overhangs as your best athletes, and that's fine. But after seeing what our inside backer could do these past 2.5 years, I mean, there's some like I want somebody that can move sideline to sideline, and it's harder to run away from an inside backer than it is an outside backer.
Yeah, especially if they're formation bound outside linebackers. Like there's always this guy always lines up to the tight end. Okay, so if he does that, put him where you want to run away from him.
Yeah. So like going back to the 4 verts, I mean, one of the biggest things that we work on is just pattern matching. Mm-hmm. And just like I'm very big on reading 2-to-1 and corner splitting. That allows the free safety more to, even if he's wrong, it's not as detrimental. And like one of the biggest things that got me on that was watching Richard Sherman when he played for Seattle. Seattle ran like cover 3. He was some of the clips. He's probably one of the best cover 3 corners I've ever seen. Like he knew how to bait quarterbacks, and now it also helps. He's a 4'5", 40 guy whose shuttle drill was stupid fast, and he can move. And he's got a Stanford education, is really smart, but he understood that, and he understood how to kind of bait quarterbacks into throwing some of those throws. And I think if you could teach, and that's one thing we did good. I had a good corner that year. He had 8 interceptions that year. We forced, I think, 18 or 19 total interceptions that year. And he did a really good job at splitting it and learning the concept. He should have had about 15 interceptions because he dropped about another 7. And I gave him shit all year long about that. Like, he kept dropping in practice. I'm like, watch, you're going to keep dropping these. And you're going to cause yourself not to get the school record, but it's also going to cause you to get short of whatever the state record is. I don't even know what the state record is, but I knew he's on pace for like a stupid amount of it.
Right.
And I still don't understand. Again, that's where, I mean, small schools ball a little different. Some coaches just don't understand not stop throwing gets a good corner, but whatever. On my other corner, I think I had 4 that year too. So, I mean, again, we forced 25 turnovers. I mean, we did some good stuff. So,
all right, now here's the next one. Here's the next question they're always going to ask if you're a cover 3 team. How do you defend 3x1?
3x1. Our 3x1 auto check essentially became quarter, half, or quarter, man.
Okay.
It was an auto check, and our kids didn't know it as any other coverage. It was just the auto check. Technically, it was what I think some people call cover 6.
Right.
But to our kids, it's just, here's our trips adjustment. Backside, a lot of times, depending on how they set it up, if they had a good receiver, they would put that one receiver side. We'd high-low the guy with our outside backer and our corner. If I thought it wasn't a problem, I would just man it and just be fine with it and go. And then just pretty much make it 4-on-3 to the trip side. At that point, I mean, we didn't see a lot of stuff out of the backfield. A lot of times they kept their back in the backfield for protection. So I didn't have to really worry about that, like, 4th receiver leaking out. So a lot of what we did was quarter, half. I mean, the year before I did some of that 4-2-5, like special coverage and all that stuff. And just really wasn't – 1, I didn't have enough experience teaching it. And 2, our kids weren't really good at it.
Right.
And
so play to your kids' strengths, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong. That's good coaching. That's great coaching.
And, like, I also with our change in schedule that year and seeing what teams did outside of Harder Northern, who I forget their head coach's name. He's passed since then because of cancer.
Pete? It's Pete.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
He's a really good long-time coach, really smart. Like, and I remember breaking out down the film versus him, and I'm just like, I'm telling my head coach, like, they're going to be a problem, like, at times. And he's like, no, they only got like 70 kids. I'm like, they might have 17 kids and they might be young, but he's doing good stuff. Like, exceptionally, like, that's the best pass game we saw all year. So, I mean, that was our biggest adjustment. A lot of times we didn't see true trips. We'd see motion of trips for flood. And that's, again, where we had to auto-adjust. My free safety would take the deep out. My outside backer would take the flat route. Corner would obviously take the vertical in our quarter half. That's something that we struggled with during 7-on-7s was flood against our quarter half. So we had to make some adjustments there. It's like, if you get this deep out, you adjust here. He's also the only guy that ran trips for Verts against us. He ran that twice against us. I mean, we saw, I think, if I remember correctly, 6-4 Verts all season. I want to say probably about 4 of them were against him. Like I said, he was a fantastic coach and a very good guy. Pete
Bruno.
There you go.
I knew it would have to come to me. Pete Bruno. So, no, I think you got, that's a great, philosophy. One of the things we did is we would bring 6 and not play man. And we would play zone. We'd play cover 3 behind it. We'd play 3 under because we said it was 3 under 2 deep. Because we would just defend the seam with whoever it was. So maybe we were bringing both inside linebackers, so the 2 outside guys would defend the seam and then play cover 3 behind it. I mean, cover 3 is cover 3, and it worked. Like the NFL, the number of snaps you see them running cover 3 is amazing.
Oh yeah, well it helps. Like I understand the Bengals are horrible right now. I get it, but Jesse Bates does that probably about as good as anybody as free safety. And he, like right now, that boy can cover field at free safety. Some of those cats can cover grass.
Right.
The other thing is, like, and I kind of go back to it real quick, is our simplistic blitz system. I would literally just hold up a number. I had each of my linebackers numbered 1 through 4. And that's how I would call it. Like, I would just hold up 1, that guy would come. And then if I wanted to bring multiple, I'd go like 1, 4, 14.
Right.
I'd bring one of the 4 backers. So this would be bring my outside 2 backers. And one of the things we worked heavily in practice is I had a blitz period. And what we would do is they would blitz, but my other backers would do the pass drops off the blitz. So we made sure everybody fit correctly for the normal gap assignment. But then I'd have some other calls be like 14X. It would be probably 23X. That would cause the 3 to blitz the 2's hole and the 2 to blitz the 3 holes. It's cross blitz. But again, especially when I would bring, like, a lot of times I just bring 1, bring 5, drop 3, and we would just work constantly on, okay, he's blitzing, this means I got to drop here. He's blitzing, I got to drop here. My outside backers blitz, so my other inside backers got to haul ass to the curl flat. He's going to be late, which is fine, but he at least knows where he's got to go. And the same thing with the inside backers. And like I said, it was a very simplistic system. I stole it from a 3-3 guy. I can't remember who. It might have been Allball. It might have been somebody else. I remember watching it was either at a Glacier or a YouTube video that I watched, and I was like, oh, crap, that's simple. And it just worked.
Hey, when we did it, out of the 4-2, what we did is we said all the city names were the left side.
Yeah.
So any A name city, Anaheim, Austin, Anchorage, they were always, it's the left linebacker blitz that A gap.
Yeah.
And if we wanted the right side to blitz, it was always a mascot, the Angels, so whatever it was, right? So we always had those names. And for us, it really didn't matter because, we were a tight end based, so those linebackers would flip. So one of those things would be just, get where they need to be and go.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I understand making it simple for your kids and things like that. Hey, you talked about turnovers and the year that you created a bunch of turnovers. How did you do that? How did you in practice? Was it something you practiced or was it just, something that just kind of happened?
A combination of 2 things. I emphasized turnover drills a lot more. We did a lot of tip drill. We did a lot of ball stripping drills. But I mean, we didn't get too many strips. A lot of the 7 fumbles recovery that year was more them messing up and us just getting on the ball. I think it helped with we'd always bring a 5th guy, so we were in good position. I really truly attribute the turnovers to kind of 2 things. One, how we practice passing concepts, because we would go a lot of half field because we're a small school, and we just run against this concept, running against that concept. Like I said, when I say I sat in cover 3, I sat in cover 3 9 out of the 10 games. Did not come out of it. Like the only other coverage we were in the game was core half. The other game was against Wagensville Goshen. I had an inverted cover 2. The prep for because they were like the only true I team we saw. So that was my way of getting essentially a 9th guy in the box and just saying and pretty much daring them to throw the ball. But what I really attribute it to is, one, how we practiced the concepts so they understood what was coming at them every week, and 2, the simplicity. Like I can't say enough is there's a big difference between, and I've seen it a little bit here too, is I've now had 1,000 reps playing cover 3 corner since June. I've had 1,000 reps playing instead of trying to have and learn, okay, I'm here on this coverage, I'm here in that coverage, I'm doing this coverage against that. No, I'm doing this coverage all the time. So my eyes aren't changing. My footwork is not changing. How I drop, how I adjust to this route does not change. I know how to adjust those routes. And luckily I had, I rotated about 4 guys in the secondary that year. 3 of the 4 were seniors. And they'd finally bought into what we were doing. The other kid was a junior who had a really good year on offense. But, I mean, we had some kids that bought into what we were doing. But I think from the simplicity fact, I go back to the simpler you play, it allows them to play faster.
Oh, absolutely. If they're thinking, they're going to be slow.
Yeah. So, they didn't have to think. I have 3 thirds. I'm going to read 2 to 1. If 2 does this, I'm going to adjust here. If he goes out, I just got to worry about 1. If we get trips, I'm looking for flood. My safety knows, okay, if the 2 runs that out, I'm going to read 3 to 2. If I see one of them run a deep out, I got to pick that up. My linebackers are a jam and carry. They know, everybody knows where everybody fits. And like I said, I think we did a really good job that year. And I think we did a very good job teaching our kids, and I credit the entire staff on that. It helped having a really good linebacker coach that year, who was a former DC at Elgin prior. He'd taken a couple of years off, came back, part because his kid was a senior and came out to play. Aaron Belmer did a fantastic job helping me out. So, like I said, that's what I kind of attribute it to.
Oh, hey, that's and that's good planning. And you're right. One year we were really good at playing. We called it fire coverage, where we locked our corners on number 1, and we basically played 9-on-9 football.
Yeah,
we were really good at it because, one, our corners were great man-to-man guys. And did we want to be? And prior to that, we ran cover 3 almost exclusively. Yeah. We ran cover 3 against 3-by-1 formations because we didn't believe you're not really going to throw 4 verticals.
Yeah,
And we knew at that time that our 1 linebacker, we could always get 1 linebacker to help with 3. Now your quarterback's got to make a really good throw over a linebacker and in front of a safety and not get that kid killed.
The other thing that I forgot to mention, the other thing I think helped is switching corner technique. We went from a backpedal to a shuffle technique.
Oh my goodness! Don't even get me started on that technique switch. Because the arguments we have had on staffs about it's backpedal. I said, well, that's funny because you go watch guys in Division I college football. Watch how many of them shuffle out.
Oh yeah, no. My boy Mike Bichetti, who's now the head coach of Thomas Worthington, sent me a bunch of his film when he was at Hilliard Bradley, and we talked a little bit about shuffle and the technique, and I kind of fell in love with it. And heck, I was talking to some kids the other day and demonstrating it, and I personally love it. And I think especially at our level, where if you have a lesser athlete, if it's taught well, because your hips are already open, I don't have to worry about swinging our hips open. And honestly, I think it's easier to tack a slant out of it too. I personally I think
you drive right on it.
Yeah, I think from a technique standpoint, you're already open for a zone turn, for a deep fade. Like, it's just my personal preference. I get why people teach both, and I understand, and that's great. But from a personal preference, I prefer the shuffle technique. And if I'm ever a DB coach again, it's going to be shuffle there.
Thank you. And here, when most DBs get in trouble is when they're backpedaling and on the turn. They get out of phase on the turn because their hips are never right. Mm-hmm. If you go back, Harlan Barnett, who's now back at Michigan State as one of their DB coaches, he's the one who convinced me of it. He goes, go watch every one of your films where a kid gets beat deep. And if they're backpedaling, see when they get out of phase. And almost to a person, as soon as they went to turn out of the back pedal and open, that guy's flying by. I'm like, he ain't catching that cat.
No.
And we had good corners at the time, and their hips – he goes, take that away from them. He goes, what's the difference between backpedaling and shuffling out? He goes, if they throw a hitch, which one's easier to drive on? He goes, you're going to take about 3 steps to come out of that back pedal to get going forward. He goes, if you're shuffling, you're planting that foot and you're driving coming forward.
Yeah, 100%. And I personally think it's a better technique. But hell, what do I know?
Right. Hey, I'm the same with you. But we have had knockdown dragouts on our staff about backpedaling, and we don't have to backpedal. No, you don't.
No, I mean, you just got to know how the weaknesses and how to adjust to them. And again, people say, "Oh, this thing's weak against this weak things with that." Well, then rep it against it so your kids know how to adjust to it. They might not stop it, but they at least will be able to be in some position to make a tackle. That's the point. Like, I hate, like, the only thing that kind of drives me, like, oh, this weak against that. The only thing that drives me more insane on coaching is when somebody says, "Oh, you got to win that," instead of coaching up a kid. That drives me.
Oh,
I'm trying not to hurt them. That drives me insane. And we have a staff member who does it, and like me and one of our other staff members just gets annoyed every time he does it. But like, that's what, like, coach up your kids, show them what the weakness of this is and how we combat it.
Right.
And
for me, that you got to win this means I don't know how to coach you to get it done, because you're pushing it on the kid. Like, hey, you just got to win. Well, no, tell me how he's going to win.
Yeah.
Like, hey, know that it's like I was talking to somebody the other day about the comeback route. A great comeback route's hard to stop.
Yeah.
But there are some things you can do to combat it. But you got to know those things. You got to spend time working on your craft. You can't just, hang out after the season and, watch Monday Night Football and, all that stuff. You got to go work on your craft.
Yeah. And when we were at Granville, we ran the crap out of comebacks. We were so good at them.
Oh.
Nobody runs them well, like, consistently anymore. Like, even talking like the Texas guys, they don't even run comebacks anymore. They run retracers.
All right, so then that brings me to my next point here. When we're talking about defending the comeback and for Verts, is there a play or an offense that drives you nuts to have to defend?
In honesty, the stuff that bothers me, like, one, any double tight formation's annoying. I mean, let's.
Why is that every defensive guy I've talked to this year? Everybody's like, "Oh God, I hate that."
Because it's something you don't see consistently, and it creates extra gaps. Like, that's a problem, because we're focused on stopping the running game. The other set that annoys the crap out of me, and nobody ever uses it right, but I can see all this, like, in my head. I'm just like, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this. Is that tight end wing with a split? I forget what you called it when we talked last time, but that other formation scares the crap out of me. Like, true Trey, I don't care about, but that when you do run Trey and that slot guy is now a wing.
Oh, yeah, I call it true.
Yeah,
I call it true because it's a tight end with a U, tight end with a U. And absolutely. Now you got to defend. Now your corner's out. Your corner has to be out of the formation. Okay, now defend tight end wing without a corner.
Exactly. It is miserable. And, like, especially nowadays with all the schemes you can run out of it. I was talking to quality control coach at North Dakota State back in the spring, and they're running duo and stuff out of that formation. I'm like, oh, that looks.
Well, it's perfect. It's a perfect formation to run duo because you're going to get everybody. There's only so many ways you can line up to it. And once you know okay, so they're going to defend it this way. Now you're just going to double, and here we go, off to the races.
Exactly. So those are probably the two worst that I just hate. Like, I don't mind defending the wing tee.
That's because you know it.
I know it, and it's like people try to get too fancy with it with all this 7-1 diamond and all this other stupid defenses. It's called line up, be structurally sound, and read the guards. Move on.
And it's knowing your base defense and knowing what your answers are. When I loved it when I was at Miami Trace as the offensive coordinator, and people would get out of their base defense because we were running an I offense.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is easy, because now they're not running their stuff.
And then, like, the triple can suck to defend, but, like, in the end, the reason you lose to the triple 90% of the time is because you've not taught your kids the rules well enough, or you've misaligned your kids. Those are the two main reasons.
Right. And the kids don't believe you.
Yeah.
The kids are like, oh, that's not true, or this isn't working, and they start freelancing. Absolutely.
Well, that's why, like, when we played you guys this year, you guys run the triple, and on top of showing, like, this is what we're going to run, we showed them film of 2 other schools running that exact defense.
Right.
We pulled up film of Centerville and Butler running it, like,
and running it well enough that it made us struggle.
Yeah, because I think you guys only scored, like, the year before, like 21 or 28 against Butler when you were scoring 40 plus against everybody else.
Right, we did. We scored. I think it was 20. I think we beat them 21-0.
Yeah.
Or 28-7. It was something like that.
And then Centerville shutting down Fairmont that one year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was, but they did a good job of doing it. Like, here's like, and that's where, like, I showed some of those going back to that Richard Sherman comment earlier. I had screencasted a couple of those clips and sent them to our DBs so they could see it. Like, kids want visual representation. It doesn't have to be NFL. It doesn't have to be college. It could be in our high school team. But if you show them something works,
yep, they'll do it. They'll believe you.
They'll buy into it. It's not rocket science, in my opinion.
Absolutely not. Okay, so when you're going to break down a defense, you're a cover 3 guy. What's the first thing you look for?
I mean, first thing I kind of go into is the formation stuff, in all honesty. Like, I mean, I obviously put all of our huddle data in and all that, but I'm more concerned about formations because I want to make sure all of our base rules are fine. That's kind of my main thing there. Is there anything that's going to give me some problems this week? Right. From an alignment standpoint, am I putting my kids in a good spot? At that point, that's when I look for, okay, what are their top 5 runs? What are their top 5 passes? My first year, I tried to draw every dang pass and run and put all that in the scripts. And that's where I heard a lot of people a lot smarter than me after that first year when we went into that second year at Elgin is, what are the top 5 runs? What are the top 5 passes they're going to run? And then they're like, it might not always be 5. Sometimes it might just be 3, depending on the school. Kind of look at the data there. Then you start moving into down and distance and what are they going to run there? What are they going to run after? Quick change, this part of the field position. But in all honesty, a lot of times during the game, I just didn't look at that stuff. At that point, I just gave it to the guy in the box. Like, especially as I've gotten older and doing this longer, I want less in my hand, during the game. I don't want more in my hand. I'm going to give that more to somebody in the box so they can be like, hey, watch out for this. Hey, we might be seeing this here, or they like to do this here. But for me on the field, if I've watched enough film, I already know I have a good idea of what they're going to probably do.
Right. I always needed the guy in the box to tell me down and distance.
Yeah. Down
and distance and hash. Like, hey, we're in the middle of the field here, and it's 2nd and 8, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be, counter or whatever it was, right? So I'm with you on that exactly. Let your other coaches coach, because you guys as a defensive staff are smarter than any one of you alone.
Yeah. So that's especially like now, like this year with my special teams call sheet, it was half an 8x11 sheet front and back. Half. I had done everything down to just 2-sided in terms of depth charts and calls and situations that I needed.
Right.
And in honesty, if I ever coordinate offense or defense again, it's going to probably be that same size sheet, like the Paul Johnson, Mike Leach-esque.
You don't want the Andy Reid trifold.
Yeah. That's what Derry had his first year, and I can't, like, there's too many color combinations and codes, and just like I don't want to think.
I think your brain. I think people have to have a special brain to think that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
because I've seen those guys do that, and like he knew every green thing was a certain thing. Well, hey, I'm glad that works for you. Yeah. I need to just watch a film and just tell me down a distance. I'll know I have an idea of what's coming.
I don't want my brain hurting, and it goes back to kind of like the kids. Like, we want to make this as simple for the kids, so why are we making this complicated for us? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
and defensive guys get in trouble, I think, sometimes that do it that way.
Yeah.
With these offenses running tempo. So now you're trying to scan your chart to find the right, thing, and they're already snapping the ball.
Yeah. Like, no, it's that's the next call. What do they like to do here? Okay, they just got a first down. Typically, they like to run a pass. And
right.
Again, that's also where it goes back to coaching your kids. If you coach them well enough, and they're like, oh, 3rd and 2, they're probably going to run this while they're on the field. They'll know that.
Right.
Like, but that's where I got to watch enough film and then teach my coaches and teach my kids. And that's, I think, what we did really well at Elgin that year is, okay, they like to run these 5 pass concepts the most. If you get this formation, they're probably running this one. Like, this is where we got to understand this. Like, it just – and then okay. And then when they see it work, they go. I will also say I've never been so angry in my life to win a game than when we did week 1 that year. We allowed Toledo Christian to score, I think, like 31 points. We won 60-something to 31 or whatever. But I've never been so angry after a game in my life. And that's – but, again, we had like 1 scrimmage film and then no film for the prior year. So –
Right. You're going in blind, basically.
Yeah. And it sucked. And they started the second half putting their best kid in the slot and just abusing our outside linebacker.
All right. So the other thing, you were talking about formations. How frustrated did you get when you saw a team run unbalanced formations?
Actually, not that bad. I mean, out of 4-4, it wasn't that bad. It really, like, the bumping and the adjustments were easy. Like, I didn't have, like, especially since I saw it at practice every day with the offense we ran, it wasn't bad. And nobody went to the unbalanced degree that Derek went to.
Right.
Derek would have nobody on the left side of the center. I mean, he'd have just a guard, and there'd be the other 9 guys would be on the other side of the I mean, I watched him go up, line up in my first year there in quads diamond. It doesn't so that stuff didn't bother me. Like, I saw that stuff in practice. So I mean, when you see that stuff often, I hated empty more than I hated unbalanced, just because we never saw it.
Right. And empty, what are they doing? What are they doing with it? And how are they trying to use? Is it true empty, or are they is it really 2x2 and they're putting a blocker out there to help seal the edge so the quarterback can roll?
Or are you going like Patrick Cotter level Fairbanks 4x1 empty and just abusing people in the OHC?
Right.
Yeah. So at first we were trying man and Matt. So I just said F that. And a lot of times we just sat in our cover 3. We didn't go quad. We didn't go quarter half. We sat and just cover 3.
Right.
I allowed my free safety to move. Corners would read 2-1, and my linebacker would help with 3. And it was fine most of the time. I mean, we didn't see teams that could throw overly well, so that helped.
Right.
But like I said, I hate empty more than I hate unbalanced. We didn't see a crap ton of it that year, and like I said, with how much we saw in practice, it didn't really bother me.
All right, so you're talking about cover 3. How much disguising did you do to cover 3, or did you care? You're like, hey, we're cover 3, just so you know.
Well, no, we absolutely none. That's the only disguising we did would be who was blitzing, and that week we went inverted 2. We disguised it a little bit, it looked like 3.
Right.
Because that's the only week I blitzed my free safety. Like I said, numbered guys 1 through 4. 5 was my free safety. That's the only game I called it. But we sat in cover 3 and said, "Bring it!" We're in cover 3. Come on. let's go. I'm not. And guess what? If you watch film enough, you'd understand when you go trips, I'm gonna be in quarter half, and then you're one guy backside, so you're gonna be 1-on-1 or it's gonna be 2-on-1. Okay. And if it's 1-on-1, that backside backer is probably blitzing. Have at it. Go right ahead. I don't care. Okay. For some reason they didn't figure this out. That's also where I hid my worst linebacker. Was usually my outside backer. Week 10, stormed the entire game. Everybody's jersey was muddy except for one kid on our field.
Backside
linebacker.
Well, what we wish to be a strong cover 3 team as well. And one of the things we would do, and it was, I promise you, like if somebody, Butler a long time ago was a lot of 20 personnel, and they would get us to line up one way and they'd take their slot and they'd motion him over the other way. And so we were just trying to spitball stuff on a Sunday. I'm like, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get us to spin so they can take, advantage. I said, what if we do this? Let's take the strong safety, and when number 2 goes in motion the other way, let's run him over there. I said, what's everybody in America think when they see a DB run? Think it's man. So now they think, hey, they're playing cover 1, when really all we're doing is we're spinning the defense, but we're never taking our free safety out of the middle. We're going to take our strong safety right over there. Now we're just playing cover 3 to wherever they were.
Yeah. Yeah, that works.
I mean, so, people understand cover 3 is a great coverage.
Oh, yeah. The other people don't understand is also there's multiple forms of it, and like I can have strong safety deep and keep corner flat and all that lovely stuff. But when you're on the 4-4, I'm in just good old
cover 3. You got those outside linebackers, get to the curl flat.
I mean,
everybody else just drop.
After a point, it's like, I just don't care. Like, if you can beat it, go ahead. But we're going to be so good at what we do that you're going to have a problem, because my kids know exactly where to go. They've worked all week on technique against what you run. I'm not really worried about it. So you better throw something we haven't seen. If you're not going to throw something we haven't seen, I'm not worried.
Right. Well, hey, Coach, it's that time of the day where we're going to ask about Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers. So who is the best game wrecker you've ever coached or played with?
Coach would, in that, like I said, we talked about this. That's the easy one for me, would be Usman Dabo. I coached him 1 year. He was a sophomore for me. He's 3rd in the team in tackles at 103. I was at Westland. He is by far the best run fitter at safety I've ever had. It's not even close. Like, he just had that natural instinct to just come downhill. Like, he could just fly. Like, he just got it. Like, those are the kind of like safeties you dream about that just fill the alley and just come downhill and can fit. And like, what I know now and what I could have done with him, like in terms of run fits, especially after listening to some of the Michigan State guys over the past couple of years about how they defend some stuff out of the cover 4 and cover 2. Oh God, it's him by now. I think if I remember surgery right, he ended up with a scholarship to Eastern Michigan, there for a year, and I think he's now at Eastern Kentucky. Great kid, great family, worked hard, great academics. But from a coaching standpoint, I mean, he's by far the best run-fitting safety I've ever had, and that's not even close.
Good. Sounds like a great kid. All right, so biggest slobberknocker hit you've ever seen as a player or coach?
In all honesty, like I thought about this one. We had 2 this year, and it was Pudge Warner just whacking the Greenville quarterback like twice in like 4 plays. And how that kid got up, I still don't understand how he finished the season. I really don't. But Pudge laid into him, like, we're up, I don't know, more 20-something points, and they're still trying to throw the ball in. Warner just whacks that kid like twice in like 2 plays and just abuses him. And it's just like, well, this is unpleasant for him. Like, those were the 2 main ones I could think of off the top of my head that just are. And then the other hit, it's not like violent, but the other one I always go back to when I think of just hits was my freshman year. Our wide receiver, Ryan Davis, got hit in a scrimmage, broke his arm, and the bone popped out of his skin. And
That'll do it.
That scream I've not forgotten to this day. Just how loud it was. Just I can't. That's the other thing. Like, you just don't forget that. Just it was sucked.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Well, those are great both examples of it. Okay, so here's what's becoming my favorite segment: the bring in the house questions. 5 questions, rapid fire, 1 response, no explanation.
Okay.
All right. So, best uniforms in football.
Hawaii's black uniforms.
Which character would you be if Varsity Blues was real?
Honestly, I have no idea off the top of my head.
Oh, come on. Pick one of them.
I don't know. You know me well enough. Who would I be?
I don't know. You could be Billy Bob. You could be Bud Kilmer. I'm not sure.
I'll take Bud Kilmer.
Which is the better series, Belly or Down?
As a whole series, Belly. Down as an individual play.
Favorite flavor of Gatorade?
You forced me fruit punch.
Okay. And this is the one I've been waiting on. Steel cage match.
Okay.
Who wins, you or Derry?
Oh, me, by far.
Derry doesn't have a shot?
No, I have no hesitation on that. He's stronger than me, but I'm faster, and
Steel cage match, you can't get out.
That's fine. My cardio is still better, and I also know I am more ruthless than him, so I'm more willing to do stuff that would be seen as unprofessional. I have no hesitation of that one.
Win at all costs, brother.
Exactly. That's my philosophy. Like, I don't care about the repercussions. That's fine.
Hey, Coach, this has been fun. I'm glad I had you on here. I can tell you what, when you go to be a head coach, somebody's going to get a great guy because you do all the little things right to get the thing done to get your kids ready to go.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate that.
Hey, guys, next time, make sure you stop in for another episode of Gamewreckers and Slobberknockers.